everyone. Thank you so much for joining in uh, this special event, which is Fireside Chat with Dhara Parekh. Hi, Dhara.
Hi.
Everyone. Thank you so much for making it today. Um, and I just had this idea, like, I think in less than a week, um, where it was just the date. Like, it's been 2 years since I started my blog, and I just wanted to do something for it. Um, and I think most of you know me, and I'm Swarna, I'm an artist and designer, but I also love writing. And I started this blog just to write about technology through a very socio-political and critical lens 2 years ago. Niru?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Um, I started this blog to just write about technology over 2 years ago, but I then realized that the space had to just it was a space for me also to evolve as a creative person. And around 1 year ago, I was introduced to like serious literature through reading Tamil writers, and it was very strange and new for me because something that I was always looking for and searching for within reading and writing was actually so close to home. And I found this incredible community of Tamil writers and readers, and I mean, through the Vishnupuram Literary Festival, which I attended for 2 years. And we actually have someone from there, like my friend Ramya, who actually is also a writer, and she edits this monthly feminist magazine, e-magazine, Tamil e-magazine called Neeli. Um, and so it was sort of that's how I got into serious literature, and I was reading short stories from these masters of the craft. And similarly, on the same line, on the other hand, I was talking and corresponding with Dhara. This is the first time I'm meeting her on call and in both audio and video. We've just been writing to each other. I got introduced to her just through like mutual friends, but I feel like I actually got introduced to her as a writer through like her books. So I was reading all these short stories from these masters, right? And then at the same time, around in 2023, so it's a nice coincidence where she also published her first debut novel, Unearthing Idyll, in 2023. February, and her short story collection called Take a Seat at the Cosmic Campfire, which we're going to discuss a story from at the end of at end of 2023. So 2023 was really a good year for us, I guess. And um, Going forward with that, I'm so happy that I somehow today happened to be the event because it's also March 21st, and we're going to be discussing science fiction, and we all love science and fiction. And today's like I think summer equinox, and this is just a random date coincidence. That and Also, I think it's Dhara's birthday over the weekend. Happy birthday, Dhara! Advanced birthday, Dhara. And it's the birthday of the blog and her book. And also, the last another coincidence is I was also really. I was introduced to science and astronomy and space exploration because I read Sunita Williams's book back when I was in second grade in middle school. So her returning from the ISS like this week was just like the cherry on top of my cake. And I was like, yes, this is meant to happen. All these wonderful people who have gathered here, from like people whom I've met in like different parts of my life, and I'm so happy that everyone could make it today. um, so that's for the intro. And before I introduce Dhara properly to y'all, we have a very special guest on the show. It's a surprise. Um, because I wanted a theme also to be of like I love Dhara's title, which is take a seat at the Cosmic Campfire. And if you guys read the document which we sent out, I just love her intro. And at the same time, I was watching a video, which is the surprise for you. I think I should just let this person do the talking. So we have a guest, a special guest, but they're just yeah, here on interview, and I will just share my screen. um
were my collective friends. Obviously, I enjoyed reading so much since my childhood, but I remember when I was 14 years old, I was reading a short story. It was in winter, and in that short story, a young man just threw sawdust into the stove, and the flame lit, and the glow was in his eyes, and there was something like magic, and I could feel the heat and the red of the flame on my skin. So I just decided to become a writer after this magic.
Um, yeah, that was Hang Kang for you all. And I really, I was watching the interview last week and I just found that that would be like a nice start to this meeting. And so we have Kriti here who is going to start off giving Dhara's intro. Go, Kriti.
Okay. Hi Dhara. Hi everyone. I'm so excited for tonight. And okay, I'll just quickly do the intro. Alright. A current resident of San Diego, Dhara considers herself a nomad. She was born in one town of India, raised in two, and then moved to 11 more on three different continents, collecting stories from around the world. Studying fat business books and working in hotels worldwide didn't gratify her, so she sought solace in novels and the fictional worlds they brought along. Eventually, these worlds beckoned her to create her own, leading to a 15-year exploration of poetry and blogging before venturing into the realm of science fiction. 2023 marked the release of her debut literary sci fi novel, Unearthing Idyll, followed by a collection of short stories at year end. She's currently working at this and the sequel of Unearthing Idyll, the second book in the Asymptote Universe, and a couple of short stories. Dara is a big sci-fi loving space nerd. When her fingers aren't prancing on the keyboard, she is learning about the next fresh interest she has stumbled upon, or reading fiction in a painful position, or nibbling on Wikipedia, or finding hacks to understand humans. An alien on the pale blue dot, converting her bizarre thoughts into Times New Roman. Dara's biggest passion lies in bringing unique speculative stories to India, establishing the genre as a staple there, defining sci fi in the West through narratives rooted in Indian South Asian culture. Her goal is to further enrich the literary landscape and bridge cultural boundaries through her storytelling.
Thank you. It feels
Thank
so
you.
weird to hear this. Someone say, read this bio out loud. It feels so weird.
But it's true. It says you are a science fiction nerd.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was Dhara. Welcome, Dhara, again.
Hi, thank you so
Um,
much for inviting.
yeah. So today's call is gonna go like this. We are gonna begin with reading a a paragraph from Dhara's story, Allonsy, which our Sona will be doing. And after the reading is over, I will start off the conversation with a few questions for Dhara. Um, and I mean, after like three or four questions, I will open up the floor to all of you so that you can all ask your questions. And the thing is, so we're going to separate this into a question answer session and then a sharing session for later. So if you have any personal opinions or things that touched you after reading the story or how it related to your own personal experience, we can do that after the question answer session. So I'm just reminding everyone that this is going to be only questions, and then we have a sharing session later on. And then another I mean question for you all is that I had an idea to either record this meeting or we just do a group screenshot photo. So I just want to show of hands with participants who are comfortable with recording the meeting, who have like to just get taken. So we do a poll. Okay, Minali. Okay, 1, 2,
Okay,
3,
then.
4,
Yeah.
5. Ramya has raised 6. We just need a majority. Are we there? Oh, Sujita has raised. Okay, cool. Okay, so we are going for the recording. Yay. Uh,
Sorry, I was being a millennial and raising my literal hand here.
okay, I think breathe in and breathe out. Loom is recording. Okay, recording's begun. And yeah, over to you, Sona. Sona also is from California. She's here.
Yeah,
But
Dhara,
actually very close to the Dhara.
yeah, I didn't realize you were in San Diego. I'm like an hour away from you.
Where
And
in
she's
San
Gujarati. She's
Yeah.
that's just and Sona and I used to have a book club. Like I mean, Sona had the book club. I was just a
No,
part
I
of
think it
it.
was a collective book club, Sorna.
Okay,
You can also
with
take credit for
Sona,
this.
I know Sona from middle school, and we've just been good friends. And we just did the book club very recently. So we were like a middle school book club, when we're all in our 20s. So that was fun. So yeah, over to you, Sona.
Okay. So I have the PDF, so I don't know what exact page it is in the book. But it's the part where old Mega is talking to young Mega about the food. So if you wanted to find it in the book. So it starts with, I'm sorry, said Megha, her chest warming up. She had never imagined experiencing loneliness, always finding solace without the need for others. It made her wonder if her older self defined loneliness the same way she did. The feeling that stems from the absence of people. What can I do? She asked. Old Megha sat up. Before you move to the US, I want you to learn to cook Mummy's dar bath. All Indian food, actually. Megha stared at her future self in disbelief. What kind of medieval times have you come from? She sneered. I'm from the future. Then why are you making such a patriarchal request? There is nothing patriarchal about being self reliant or having the ability to feed yourself. Don't let that stop you from living your best life. Megha stood and walked back and forth in the tiny space between her bed and her desk. How old are you now? She said. I forgot to ask. 66. The answer stunned Megha. To her, the woman looked older than 80. Okay, so let me get this straight. Megha ground her teeth. I lived 45 long years in a foreign country, suffering loneliness, wars, losses, and a revolution. Then I come across a freaking time machine, and instead of using it in the countless wicked ways that I'm already picturing in my head right now, I come to this mundane moment in our life with that request. I should have traveled to that one time when I entered my email password incorrectly and stopped that from happening. You should lose that sarcasm, old Megas folded her hands. It's not going to take us very far in life. Okay.
Yeah, I love that last line.
The last part, I think the last part might be one of my favorite parts in the story.
So just starting off the Q&A with Dhara. Just cool. Yeah, can you see? Yeah.
Is it okay if I drink tea while talking?
Yes, definitely. And food's on the table. Like food's on the table. I have grapes. Kriti has sushi. Yeah, guys, it's so yeah, starting off, I think for me, when I first read the story, what just hit me the most and like right in my face was this was a time travel story that revolved around food and cooking. And I never thought these two could be in the same page in the same story. So that was so new for me. And yet it was not strange at all for someone living in India. And I was also going about to move abroad, and I was trying to learn cooking from my mother, and it was just at the right time, and that I even shared the story with my mother. Um, so my first question would be, how have your to Dhara is how have your personal experiences with cooking and in your personal life, how you view food, how have those shaped the crux of this story?
Um, so I grew up in the 90s in a small town in South Gujarat. Um, and as unconventional as I think my mom is compared to other Indian moms, and even now she's pretty badass. But she still passed on that generational burden on the girl child to learn to cook. Like there was this constant nagging, like you have to learn to cook. What are you gonna feed your husband and his family? And I remember I needed my first dough when I was 12. Like I was aesthetic. Like oh, I was walking around showing my grandparents, look, I needed a dough. But that was it. Like that because that I did that because I thought of it as a game. I was just 12 years old, and then over the years, my rotis are as flat as my enthusiasm about it. They were terrible, and I hated it because of that burden. Like, oh, you're a girl child, you have to cook, you have to learn to cook, you have to learn to do this, and kitchen for me at that point became more like a battleground instead of something that I like a craft, which is interesting because I recently learned that with AI, like if the AI knows that you are, if that knows that if the AI knows that you are a man, it would talk about cooking as an art or a craft. And if the AI knows that you are a woman, it would talk about cooking as just a chore, like a domestic chore. So yeah, that's why I started hating the kitchen and cooking. And then coincidentally, I took up hotel management, and with that intention to learn the business side of it. But you have to learn culinary skills as a part of the program. And shocking as it was to me, I enjoyed the whole process of cooking because there was no one nagging at me, no one telling me this is what I should be doing, no one telling me, oh, you're making a mess. And there was theory attached to it. I loved the cook theory, but I had this struggle. Like I was the only girl in the whole batch who was interested in kitchen. Like everyone, the rest of the people who were passionate about that were just boys. So I was wondering, like I was kept questioning myself, like why am I interested in something so domestic, which is the word I used in the story too, because it felt very domestic at that point. Um, but then yeah, eventually I caved in and I just adapted it. And for a long time, my biggest dream was to become a chef, which didn't happen, but not because I hated cooking, for other reasons, but I always wanted to be a chef. And I accepted that part of me, and I went from cooking is patriarchal to cooking is whatever what I wanted to be. And I think that helped me shape the story, helped me shape the arc of Megas, both the Megas in the story. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And the fact about AI is also like
Yeah.
very, but it's very real.
Not
It's very
surprising, but yeah.
it's believable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and also to mention Dhara's novel Unearthing Idyll. The protagonist is
Oh,
also
yeah,
yeah
I was gonna
Lyra.
say that you compared her to Lyra, who is the protagonist of my first book, and she's a chef on an asteroid colony. And I made her that because I wanted to live vicariously through her. I wanted to live my dream, which never was fulfilled. But yeah, that's the contrast. Like there's this one person who hates cooking in this story, and the other one who is so passionate about cooking that for her it's therapy, and she's a chef as by profession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. It's that's why I said that I connect with Hara more as a writer, because I see different shades of her through her characters and her stories. So moving on to the next question. Um, Another thing that I felt when reading the story was sort of the metamorphosis of a woman. Um, because at a point I felt myself relate both to young Megha and old Megha. So I was thinking, and I'm like, am I in between? Like, where am I right now in this space? Because I think there's a lot to explore with how we grow as women and how our passions and interests change and how our dreams and ambitions also change. So, my question would be, and I also felt that there was this similarity to how a character arc of a protagonist grows within a story. So, my question is, how did you work around with the arc within this particular subgenre of time travel in science fiction?
Um, I think for with this story, the story demanded a certain kind of arc, so I wasn't that deep into how I want the character to grow because I was writing the story about this older self who was not happy with her life, and then she travels back to tell her younger self to make small changes to improve her life. So the story sort of demanded the arc. I didn't have to design her that way, which is what usually happens with my stories. It's the stories and the plot that usually demands certain kind of arc, but it goes other way too sometimes. But mostly it's the story, and I think when it comes to time travel, for me, it's a huge black hole. Like I have to be very careful not to fall into the rabbit hole because I've spent days and months just reading about theories and different timelines and stuff, and I just come out of it 3 weeks later with a headache and nothing writing wise. So even just talking about it right now, it hurts my head. So with this, I had to be very careful. I made a conscious decision to not think about time travel or the genre and just finish the story first. And then I went in and polished the technicalities of the genre and just went with whatever the story demanded. And with this particular collection, my biggest goal was to lure in readers who are mostly intimidated by sci-fi. I just wanted to show that time travel doesn't always have to be like physics or algorithms or big jargon. It can also be about emotions and um, it can be funny. It can be um, feministic. So yeah, I think the story drove the arc, and it just happened organically. I didn't have to work with her character that much.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, yeah, for that answer. And that's nice, really nice to hear. And I think the next is obviously the first thing when we look at science fiction is what comes to our mind is world building, because we actually see more science fictional films than read science fiction, I feel, and it's all these grandiose worlds. And but here I was like, I'm just driven by this character and their emotions, but also I get glimpses into their world. So in the beginning, I feel I was very fascinated with the details of Dhara's young, like, adolescent room, and especially in a cramped Indian household, because it was all these details of her moving her mother's sari from the clothesline to get a clearer view of older Mega, or the carom board, the boric powder. So these details added, so, and I could like feel, I could smell and see this room, right? Um, and this was starkly in contrast with where she finds herself after she travels forward in time. That is in the later end of the book, in her New York apartment, which is more of like, I can imagine like a white New York apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you work? Not work, but like, did you want to bring the world into this? Or my question actually would be, how did you work on the initial setting of the story and journeying the world into the future?
So it's very funny because her room was basically designed after my own childhood room growing up in Gujarat, and that's because usually I don't know why, but I try to avoid using my hometown or my home when I'm writing stories. Uh, but when I was writing this one, because my sister's name is Mega, I named the character after her. For some reason, while I was writing the story, my room kept like interrupting my vision, and I was like, okay, I'll just go with it. And then I used my own room as a inspiration to write hers, and everything right from like the clothes in the cloth line in the monsoon inside the room that happened every monsoon in my house, because I lived on a fourth floor in a five-story building, and that was the only way to dry the clothes in monsoon. So everything like carom board, boric powder, all inspired from my own childhood. Um, were and with older Megha's apartment, it's just like when I try to imagine it, I just saw a regular American apartment, and you know how it looks like if you have seen enough Hollywood movies. But it was purposeful. I didn't. If you noticed, I have not explained anything about her apartment. I just that she just comes in, and it was purposeful because I wanted to. For me, I thought that Mega's room was so vivid because she was rooted in her life, in her house, versus older Mega who was just living, and she wasn't rooted. She didn't feel attached to her life or her home in New York or in the US. So I didn't explain anything about the apartment. I knew that when a reader would read this, they'll just imagine the typical American apartment, and that's all I wanted. Like I didn't want to go more into detail with hers. Yeah,
I'd say I just saw like four white walls.
yeah.
Right.
That's like I. That was my intention, and because I didn't want. She was not happy. She was not happy with her life, so she didn't put attention to any details in her life or her house. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone want to ask a question now? Kriti, anybody?
Yes, yes, I do have a question. I have one question. So there is this consistent theme of loneliness, of course, and also your book and the New York apartment, and sorry, the story and the New York apartment and the loneliness aspect reminded me of Lonely City, by Olivia Lang. And because even she talks a lot about, one second, could you please shut the door? She also talks a lot about the embarrassment of being lonely and the sadness that comes with it. And it was very interesting. I could see that this person has more to say other than just being lonely. So my question is, how does this woman in your world, perhaps if we had that arc or if we had that side, how did she deal with her loneliness, living all these years
Mm.
in that apartment?
Um, so, if the excerpt that Sona read about young Mega wondering what loneliness was, but the saying it was to show that she was not yet that self-aware. She was lonely because older Mega looks at her at one point in the story and thinks about the broken pieces and how she felt always like an outsider growing up. But young Mega at that point was not that self-aware. She was lonely, but she didn't know. She just thinks like, was is loneliness just absence of people? And
Yeah,
she wonders that. So she doesn't know she's lonely, but she was because she didn't have anyone at that point, like no friends and all. But older Mega, yes, I like just when started writing the story, the first line, like she comes like looks like a saucer, and her arms are all slumped down, and she looks like even though she's 66, she looks 80 plus. All that imagery just came to my head, and I the first thought that came to me was like this was a super lonely woman who she did like the world that she came from what did get better, and she did find people who were also like outsiders, and she at one point she says that, oh, we'll find a band of misfits and then we won't feel like a misfit anymore. So yeah, she but she did live a very lonely life. I think it was because for the fact that she didn't feel rooted at all, and all these political things happened. um, and if you see old Mega, she was trying very hard to move away from her roots and not learn cooking or just get out of her house. And I think that led her older Mega to feel that secluded even in a place that was outside of her house. And yeah, and then she figured out that loneliness, to not to cure loneliness, but to be less lonely, you don't have to take huge steps like, oh, just get out, make ton of friends, but just small changes like learning how to cook something that can instantly make you feel rooted and make you feel sane for a while, like momentary sanity through food. That's the word she uses. I forgot what the question was, but yeah, I think that's how she is a lonely woman, and she figured out a way how she can cure
yeah.
that way.
There is, because I also sort of, it's a funny question. Not
Mm.
really, it's a follow up sort of a thought that I
Mhm.
had, that there is good thing that there is no man in the, we don't know if the, of course we don't know the sexuality of this person.
She is definitely sexual.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
so when she was asking her future self, did we get rich or like did we find place in the society? She never asked about, oh, did we find someone?
yeah.
And that I didn't. It was not purposeful. It just happened. Like I didn't feel like she needed to ask that question. It was not her character, and I just thought like, yeah, she doesn't care. She's
Okay. Oh, that was very interesting because
an
we don't know.
aromantic as well. Yeah. she
what
did.
this person's idea of companionship is, because that's how usually people deal with loneliness in
Yeah,
in the real world.
yeah,
But so that was very interesting, which is what it leads me to, that it must have been a very difficult journey for this person, and yet
yeah,
eventually they do find themselves to be lonely. So that was
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Thank you for writing this, Dara.
Welcome.
It was really lovely to read.
Thank you for reading. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if anyone else wants to ask any question, also you can go ahead now. I have a few questions prepared, so I can ask that, or if anybody wants, you can raise your hand, virtual hand, and ask. Okay, we have two hands. Sujita, go first.
Yeah, hi Dara. So my question is, usually like I've not read many novels with time travel as a or sci-fi as a genre, but my guilty pleasure is reading fan fictions with time travel. So more often than not, like usually the character that goes back in time, they have this burden of saving the world or like stopping the bad guy or something like that. But I really enjoyed like this was a nice break from what I've usually like indulged in earlier. So how did you like what inspired you to keep it like very light? And I know that there's themes of loneliness and everything, but
Mhm.
it's so nice that the conversation between them is also like I know that you haven't kissed anyone till now, and like the way she reminds her that I am you and all that. So that part was quite fun for me, that interaction. So what inspired you to keep it light? I just want to know your thoughts.
Uh, so for me, firstly, I was very fascinated. I've always been very fascinated with the older self meeting the younger self part, either through time travel or through letters to the past, or even through like those cringe Facebook memories, where it reminds me every time how I used to spell YOU as YEW because it was cool. Uh, but yeah, just like meeting your younger self, I had always been fascinated with that idea. And it all started with a clock. I had this like steampunk clock, which I kind of describe in the story. And when I got that clock, I always wanted to write a story about it. Somehow it just like I saw someone traveling because of that. Oh, there you go, that clock behind. Uh, it's
We can
it,
see it. Yeah, that's so
yeah.
cool.
Um, and yeah, so that was I wanted to do that, and I always like all the stories where the future self meets the past self. It happens at a very crucial moment, like there's something big happening and the world changes and the whole thing changes. So I wanted to flip it, and I wanted to, like as mentioned in the story, like I wanted her to come to the most mundane moment of her life and make the most mundane, most annoying request one could think of. Uh, and that sort of started with that like told me that, oh, this has to be a story that's a little lighter than what I usually write. Swarna has read my Unearthing Idyll, and she knows like for me it's a challenge because I'm a very internal person, and I tend to be inside the character's head all the time while I'm doing the story, which happened a lot with Unearthing Idyll. It was my first book. So yes, it was a huge challenge for me to keep this one very light, still more about like what's happening externally than what's happening inside their head. And for me to do that, I had to make the character a doer than a thinker. She has this introspective mentality where she thinks a lot, but she's also like as soon as she came to know about this clock, like when the younger Mika, she started building the clock. Whereas someone like me or even Lyra from my first book, she would instantly write a story about it. Like that's it. But this character, I knew she was gonna do something about it, and she was a doer. And making her a doer, someone who is like instantly doing something or the other, helped me keeping the story light. And because it was about food, I didn't want to make it morbid or sad. Even though it is sad for me, because for me, older Mega's life is very in my head it's a little traumatic. So but for the readers I wanted to keep it light, and yeah, that's how I did it. Just made the character some a doer instead of thinker.
Thank
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kriti also raised her hand.
Yeah, so actually, my sister who's sitting right here and was invited for this event, it's like she's right here, has asked a question, which is positioning yourself in the position of Megha, the older version. How do you think she would feel watching The Great Indian Kitchen, or a film that where food is depicted in a very politically relevant plot point?
Oh, what she would think? I think, um, like I said, like Megha is smart, but she's not that intellectual, as intellectual as we would want her to be. She drove to this conclusion about wanting to cook because of her experiences. Like if you see young Megha, she's not aware about anything as far as cooking is concerned. She's not even there is a see right when the story starts. She doesn't even know what's happening in her kitchen. She just says, "Oh, mother cooked something," and I wanted to show that it's again the mom who's taking care of everything, and no one knows what's happening outside of the mother, outside of the mom of the house, what's happening in the kitchen. So she's not that aware about how. All she knows is that cooking is patriarchal because she was told that, oh, you need to learn to cook, and she never wanted to. That's about it. And she went, like, if the older version wouldn't have visited the younger version, she would have visited the country and lived her life hating cooking and not thinking like that's something. So older Megha, if she was 66, if she could have learned if she wanted to in a way, but I just wanted to show her like she just left the burden onto her younger self, like, oh, you need to do this. Or maybe she was too busy with like with her life, like it was traumatic. It was happening. There was a lot happening. So I think she wouldn't have like the older Megha, if she would have seen the Great Indian Kitchen, she's like, ah, yes, yes. But that's about it. I don't think she would think too much of it. I think she drove to that conclusion because of just her personal experiences and not because of a societal uh,
Hmm.
knowledge about it.
Mm, okay. I have a very silly question after this, which
Yeah,
Swarna and I both agreed to asking,
yeah.
which is how how do you pronounce how do you pronounce the title of your story?
Oh, Allonsy. It's a French word for let's go. And it's
Uh,
inspired from my favorite show, Doctor Who, which is also a time traveling show. And
yeah.
there is, I don't know if you know, but there's different doctors over the years. The show started in the 60s, and over the years there have been many doctors. And there was a first woman doctor, the 13th doctor, a couple of years ago. And the 10th doctor, David Tennant, his catchphrase was, as soon as he started his time machine, like TARDIS, he would say, Allonsy, means let's go.
Uh,
And somehow this character I thought would be a fan of the show because it's just about again doing things and the adventure. Oh, so I had this huge plan. Like if this story gets accepted more widely, I want to do a comic book about it and showcase all the adventures Mega goes through once she builds the clock, and in a comic format or graphic novel format. Um, but yeah, that's how like even when I imagined the cover of the story of that comic book, I was chewing like, oh, let's go, because she's just excited to try the machine. So it's called Allonsy, and it's French for let's go.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, Ramya has raised her hand.
Yeah.
We can't hear you. Can you just try again? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear
Hello.
you now.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Dara.
Hi, Ramya.
Uh, actually, bear with my English. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Even in the time travel kind of genre story, you have bring out the feminine part well. Actually, I enjoyed that thing. Here I'm from Tamil. So, in the critic point of view, no. Um, uh, the feminine part need to be shed off to achieve the artistic height. That's what they think about. Throughout Tamil literary journey, if we take some critics, For women, body and the feminine thing, like food and all, no, it's like kind of
Yeah.
feminine thing. So those things need to be shed off to achieve the artistic quality. That's what they think of. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think like that, or how you react to such kind of things? And are you facing that kind of criticism in your circle? Or and I want to know your favorite authors of that authors who bring out feminine part in fiction very well, uh, without any hesitation or kind of any lower feelings like that. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic question. No, I don't agree that you have to shed your femininity to adapt this other parts that are traditionally considered non-feminine, which is, I think, the story reflects that because in a way if you, so did you notice that she had like dumbbells lying around inside her room, like exercising equipment, and she had like toned abs and stuff, and she looks at her biceps when she's like when the just before older Mega visits. So I wanted to showcase that she was very tomboyish. Tomboyish. I don't like that term anymore. But she is someone non-feminine, if you want to say, growing up. But then eventually, that's what older Mega learns because even their clothes are even though they are the same person, there's a point where she like observes their clothes, and older Mega has accepted her femininity much more than younger Mega, and she has learned that you don't have to be less feminine to be more like to enjoy working out or to enjoy something that's traditionally considered masculine. I personally have always been growing up. I've been very non-feminine person, but again, that's because I was conditioned to believe that all the all the things that I considered oppressive growing up were related to femininity, and somehow that made me dislike everything feminine. Probably, I didn't realize that. I This is just like me growing and still learning. But growing up, I always thought, for example, where I grew up, if you wear Punjabi dresses, you are considered like feminine, well cultured, modest, timid. But whereas versus if you wear like jeans or tomboy clothes, you are considered like a rebel or someone who is not willing to give in. So I always adapted to the rebel side because I didn't how I was agree with the things the way women were treated. Cooking too, like it was considered because women are the only one always cooking, and we see that we attach that to femininity, and that's why I hated kitchen in the first place because I considered that as oppressive plus feminine. So I grew up detaching myself to femininity. Um, and over the last, I want to say, I think ever since I started writing fiction, even while writing Lyra, I learned a lot of it because she was also someone who is not that feminine, but there's this thing like where she loves to cook, and she questions like why she's so much like so many different things. She cannot define herself, and while writing this, I realized that I don't need a definition. Like I can be feminine, I can be masculine, I could be somewhere in between. I don't need a just one label to define myself, and now that I've accepted that you don't have to be feminine and to be what you want, or you don't have to be masculine to be a woman, uh, I'm finding it hard because now women are embracing femininity. And at the same time, there is this extreme side that is criticizing women who are not embracing femininity. Like, you're not the girl's girl. Uh, but even after accepting everything, and I think it's just me, like, I would wear a sweatshirt than a Punjabi dress. But that's not because at some point I was avoiding that because I attached that to oppression and to the conditioning that I was raised in. But now it's just because that's my comfort level and I feel more comfortable. I didn't grow up wearing Punjabi suits. So for me, that's comfort, and I want to prioritize that because that's just being myself. So yeah, it's a constant learning process, and I try. For me, I've decided like to be feminine or to be a woman is just being whatever you want to be. You don't have to have any labels attached to that. And I know you asked about a writer that I loved. So as a science fiction nerd, I started, which is also again very feministic thing that happened with me. I started, if you know, all the sci-fi icons in the West are all men, like Asimov, Robert Heinlein, Clark Worth, and who else? Neil Gaiman, everyone who writes sci-fi, they're all men. And I not grew up, but when I started writing science fiction, started going through all these popular sci-fi writers, and they were all men. And I started learning how problematic they were as people. Like Asimov was like a groper. Um, he was a very problematic man, and it's because of that I find it very hard now to even say that is my favorite author. I love his writing, I love his stories, but I try to avoid, if I could, to say his name. And that is when I made an intentional decision to discover women sci-fi writers, and I discovered Ursula Le Guin, I discovered Margaret Atwood. Um, Octavia Butler is my most favorite science fiction writer who has embraced femininity in a very organic way. I think she doesn't try. I don't think it's her intention to show femininity as a part of her sci-fi, but it's just something that she does naturally. She doesn't try to shed off femininity to show uh, how women can be a pivotal part of science fiction. So, yeah, to answer your question, Octavia Butler is my favorite science fiction writer who does that really, really well. There's a story called Kindred. I highly suggest that. It's also about someone traveling to their past. Um, Very traumatic things. It's about black woman traveling to a feministic black woman from present, traveling to the past when slavery was the norm, and she's trapped in the past. So she has to be a slave. Um, and yeah, very feminine, very feministic, and very time traveling and sci-fi. Everything you mentioned, Ramya, and I think if I answered your question, but let me know if I didn't. I get lost. I forget what I was asked.
No, I think that was Ramya. Ramya, do you have something to
Yeah,
say?
yeah, it's fine. The last thing you didn't answer, like with the feminine part, can do you feel you could able to achieve the artistic height which the critics are telling, no, in the
Yeah.
world as well as in your language?
Oh no. Like you mean Gujarati, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, no, unfortunately, no, because I was um, I was in a convent school where they taught us Gujarati starting from third grade, and even then it was very basic. So I'm very fluent verbally. I'm fluent in reading. I'm fluent when it comes to perceiving, I think, but I am terrible when it comes to expressing in Gujarati in written format. Because of the grammar, I was never, maybe I regret that now because my youngest sister, who was adopted, she studied Gujarati medium, and she is fluent in both now, like Gujarati and English, and she could express herself well in written format in Gujarati, and I envy her because my mom, who understands very basic English, she has been pestering me since the last 2 years since I published my book, and she is very passionate about learning what I do with my writing. She asked me, "Oh, what's this about? What's this about?" And she wants to read my stories, but it's in English. So I've been actually trying to translate this story into Gujarati with the help of my sister so that my mom could read it. Um, uh, but no, I cannot in my own language, sadly, no.
Do you think your the criticism language is masculine compared to feminine in not in your language or the whole of what you're seeing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially in science fiction, it's a male-dominated genre. I know many people who would not pick my book because if they know that it's a woman writer and science
Huh.
fiction, especially it's changing definitely. and I see it when I go to physical events. Like I go to a ton of book festivals here, book fairs, and cons, comic cons, and stuff. And all the readers who buy my book, they always the first thing they say that they want to support women science fiction writer, um, and that's how I came to know how like even now there are people who would not pick up my book if they know that it's a woman writer in the science fiction genre. So yeah, in my genre definitely, but it's changing. And recently there was a stat where the first time in history women writers are more than male writers, and that's because of romance genre. But even then, like yeah, first time in the history, like women writers are 54% now versus male writers. And there was a point when women were just like 10 writers, and that was not even 50 years ago. 10%. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's something to celebrate. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
It
you,
just
Dara.
came out. Like,
Thank
I
you.
read it a couple of weeks ago.
I do have something to say to that. The thing that you said about Roma, and I know it's a discussing point, but I just want to say, it's so antithetical to our to the women now that I mean more women are writing romance novels,
Yeah.
wherein they hate it in real life. More women are tired of romance in real life, and yet they seek it, or they, I don't know, there's a fantasy around it, or there's I mean, even that looks like a male fantasy. Margaret Atwood has a great excerpt on this about male fantasies. You're a woman, you're a woman with a man inside of you looking at a woman,
Yeah.
uh, and that's very interesting. So I just wanted to bring that up, that our literary society is set by male standards, which is pretty shit, honestly, because even like even science fiction, what would it be if it was started by women?
Um,
Would we
it
be
was.
fighting?
It was.
I
The
mean,
first person to write. Yeah,
yes,
Mark
it
Shelley.
was, yes, yes, it was. You're right.
Yeah. But
I,
like it's still like the men didn't like let anyone know it
yeah,
was. Because all
yeah.
like we still only think of Asimov and all those pioneers of science fiction.
Yeah, and always like after what Neil Gaiman has done now, everybody's just like, ew, but he's a fantastic writer. They would not say that about women.
Yeah.
Would we
Um,
be fighting for so much femininity if the men hadn't forced us? We would be writing about so much more rather than just constantly defining slash undefining our femininity. If it
right.
wasn't a constant battle, right? Your world
Oh,
would be different.
the romance thing, I'm actually trying to draft an article and submit it to New York Times opinion piece. It's about how, so the romance thing that you mentioned, like it's still very, even though women are writing and women are reading the romance book, there is still male gaze. And
Yeah, that's what I
some
think.
of
Yes.
yeah, and some of the stories I did, I researched the genre to write this opinion piece, and it's some of the almost all those stories are so problematic because there is literal glorification of abusive men in those stories. The alpha male is like if you search for the most popular romance genres right now, it's alpha male billionaires who are problematic, gray, um, abusive, and then oh somehow they learn the lesson and they get all gooey by the end, but there's still like male gaze. Um, and that's why I said like even though there are more women writers now, it's because of the
Romance.
romance
Yeah.
genre. But I'll take that as a win because it's also a kind of way for women to own their sexuality. Like there was a point when women were afraid being seen with an erotic book or spicy or smutty book, and people just own it now. Like women just own it now. Okay, we are reading and we are just enjoying what we like. We don't care what you say. So yeah, I'll take that as a win too. But yeah, what you said is absolutely correct. Like
Yeah.
even now, I have to instead of just being myself and writing what I want, I have to constantly think like, oh, am I being, am I not doing a disservice to women by writing this line or writing this chapter or writing this story? And there's this constant. Oh, I do want to share. Like we were talking about the pioneering of science fiction. Have you heard of Begum? I forgot the last
Yes.
name.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah,
to bring it up. I was going to bring it up. Both Motichur and Sultana's Dream.
yeah.
Yes.
So Sultana's Dream. I've been talking about it ever since I found out about her. She was the first. it was Bangladesh when she wrote the story. She was in India when she wrote the story. It's Bangladesh now, but she wrote the one of the first science fiction stories in the genre in 1895, I want to say, or 1910. So much before like all these white men came to write science fiction story, but no one knows about her. Not even like even like sci-fi nerds in India. I usually used to communicate with on Clubhouse years ago. Um, they didn't know her. Like no one knows, and I don't blame them. But she was not talked about. But yeah, she was one of the first few women and first few people actually to write science fiction,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
mean,
it was
it's
a
because,
very feministic piece.
yeah,
I
it was. It was. Love. I really loved it. I was. It's because of writers like you that we're going to probably, like, hopefully, deviate from the romance
yeah.
genre, really get into science fiction. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
think, sorry, Sarna, please take over.
It's okay, it's okay. Thank you so much. I think Sona had a question.
No, no, you're good. I did have a question, but in the interest of time, I also can just, I don't have to ask it too. It's okay.
Oh, it's okay, you can go ahead, right? We can take I mean, I was planned to be an hour, but looking at our conversations, we can take 15 to 20 minutes extra,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I'm okay.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Also, I loved your answers to these questions. They're all very nuanced. I feel like a lot of times when you get asked a question or you listen to someone's answers, I don't know, it's not
And it's also the
as
first
much
time I'm
thought
getting,
put into it.
sorry to interrupt. It's also the first time I'm getting asked all these questions. I think I told to Swarna a while ago, like all these places I get invited to. I recently went to a middle school as well to talk about writing, but they are all so generic questions and the same questions again and again. And I was so happy I wasn't asked to introduce myself in the beginning because I'm tired of talking about the same things. I'm so happy to talk about all this. I've never talked about, especially feminism, like never talked about feminism in relation to my work. Sorry, yeah, I just want to say that
No, no, that's
I
cool.
enjoyed the questions as well.
I had a question on the ending of your book. And so an old mega comes back and she has you can sense some joy that she has from like being able to experience all these things and even knowing how to make darbat and stuff like that. Like there's some joy that you can't feel from her. But I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the choices you made for the ending. And so you don't talk a lot about like if she is what's an example, like if she does end up working out more and is more fit, or if she is happier generally overall, and then also the choice of having her like lifetime clock there too. I was wondering if you could kind of offer more background and like insight into the decisions you made and why you made them.
So when I wrote this story, I wanted to end there, and I know that like at the end, do you remember the part where she thinks that the timer behind the clock is her life, like life running away, like she's gonna
Yes.
die in 5 hours? I included that after I decided to turn this story into a comic someday, because in my head the comic is all about young Mega with all her adventures, and she's crossing all these timelines, visiting her past and future and everything. And whatever she does, I think for her, older Mega, where she is, I think that's for me that was the end of her life, sadly, because otherwise it doesn't serve meaning to the story in my head because she has lived her life one way and now she's giving younger Mega the chance to live it the other way. And it's up to young Mega how she wants to change that. And if her choices might, I don't know yet if her choices might change something in older Mega's life, like change when she's gonna die, or change how she's gonna die, or change how happy or sad she feels. But for now, I think I didn't think too much because then I'd be bogged down by details and I'll start writing another story or chapter. But in my head, for young old Mega, I think that's where it ends. Like she learns, she did like young Mega did all these insane things, and there are two words that I described her feeling, like she was impressed at the same time she was frightened by what her younger self had done. And I think that's very true to her character. Like she was like impressed with her own self, like, oh, she did this. And at the same time, she's scared, like, what is she doing? She's like breaking all the rules. And I think that's about it for me for her in my head.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I mean, we still have some time. Okay, Miru.
Uh, is my audio fine?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have like the most basic question. Are there like any Indian myths or legends that influenced you or like inspires your work?
Actually, again, this was also one of the things I embraced after I became more self-aware with accepting who I am. So growing up, I hope I don't offend anyone, but growing up, I related our mythology and religion to being oppressive, because I was forced to do things I didn't want to, as just because I was a woman, just because I grew up in a certain household. So I always related our stories, like Hindu mythology and Hindu religious stories, as something uh, that would suppress my autonomy and freedom. So I stayed away from it for a long time. And exactly like cooking, I had the same relation I have with cooking, with religion and our stories, I think. Just because I was conditioned to accept it in just one particular way and never question it, I thought that was oppressive and I stayed away from it. And because of that, I didn't read anything about our own legends or our own stories. But once I think starting to write my own books made me very self-aware and um, made me accept myself without any other definitions or without any other impositions. And that's when I started discovering the story. So I learned that um, one of the first um, format of time traveling was in Hindu literature. I think it was in Vishnu Puran when Brahma, I'm sorry, I don't know who, but he goes to heaven and he talks about how everything is deteriorating. And then when he comes back, he realizes he's in a different age. He has time traveled in a way, way into the future now. So that was one of the first time travel legends, if you want to say that, in the landscape of literature. Um, yeah, with science fiction, not so much. With time travel, not so much. I don't know any Indian stories. I think that is all, and it's not that we have a ton of them. I did research about it. I read as many stories as I could, like Sultana Begum and the modern sci-fi writers from India. It's also what inspired me to take this path because I wanted to when you read fantasy and science fiction from India, it's all very sometimes rooted in mythology. And I wanted to do something different from it because if I adhere myself to certain kind of legends or mythology or religion, I think I limit myself a lot. And I wanted to not limit myself when it comes to my writing, and that's what inspired me to take this path. Like I wanted to do something very different when it comes to Indian science fiction. I wanted to address a lot of contemporary problems that people face now than what people faced in mythology. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but no, unfortunately, I haven't. I don't know of many legends of from our literature when it comes to time travel.
Miru, okay. Maheshwari has raised, but before that, Kriti's comment, which says,
Yeah,
"You say
Ramayana.
Ramayana was the first sci-fi." But which you that was Miru, that was a brilliant question, and it was quite, yeah. Your answer was also, I didn't even like think of it before. I think Maheshwari has raised her hand.
Hi. Um, Fun trivia. I also just moved to San Diego like a month ago. So yeah, I live right
Oh,
around here.
awesome! Where do you live?
Yeah, I live downtown.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. Let me know if you need
yeah.
any help.
Thank you so much, Dhara. It's lovely to. It
Varna
was
means
very nice. It was so nice reading your work. I could really relate to it. And one thing that I found quite interesting was given the dystopian state of old Mega's world, where she's there's a war and she's separated and she can't go back and she's isolated in a certain sense. And she goes
yeah,
back to her younger self, and instead of saying, "Don't come here," just stay where you are,
yeah,
she says, "No, learn how to cook."
yeah.
And I find that very interesting, and I think that's very deliberate. So I just wanted you to like expand on your thought process about making that decision. And yeah, just I'm very curious how that came about for you. Mm.
I think the funnest thing with this book and with this story is the fact that all of my research and my own mental exploration became part of the book. So all those middle part
Mhm.
where a young Mega is questioning like, why don't you just go back in the past and not come to the US, or why
Mm,
don't you stop from whatever is happening, or
mm,
yeah, things like that. That was all the questions I asked in my head, and it snuck into the story itself.
mm,
So yeah, I was. Yeah, there is a part where she says that, okay, I'll just not go if this is gonna happen, and then she's like, no, no, no,
mm,
I do want to go. Uh,
mm, mm,
and then there is this line where sometimes you fit more nicely into a foreign land than you fit in your own, which is what I have
mm,
felt in my life. Like I was
mm,
always an outsider growing up in India, very different, not myself because I was not
mm,
allowed to question. I didn't have the autonomy. And when I moved here, I got this freedom to be myself and find people
mm,
who were like me without any restrictions. So I think I didn't see Megha not going. I think she needed that to grow
mhm,
because as you can
mhm,
see, young Megha is not self-aware. She's not
mm,
that
mm,
aware about politically as well. Um,
mm,
so I think she needed to get out to learn about everything, to learn this important thing that she has to embrace certain parts. And
mm,
even though she had to shed some of the parts, she had to
mm,
embrace some parts, like her food and
mm,
like the culture she
mm,
came from. So
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was the
that's
reason why she had to get out from there.
that's very interesting and relatable for me as well, where the comfort of home is very tempting, but then there's so much
Yeah,
growth that you do when you
yeah,
step out of your comfort zone. And I
yeah.
really I felt like that resonated with me a lot, and I just wanted to
Yeah,
like know more about what you thought. So yeah, thank you so much for your answer.
yeah, you're welcome. And let me know if you wanna come for Dad Bhat someday. I'll make you
Oh
Dad
yes, I'd love that. That'd be fun.
That's amazing.
Bhat.
Yeah, when I was inviting Sona to the meeting, I was like, Dara is from some sand. Like, I just remembered. I know there are a lot of sands.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
was in one sand, then I moved to the second sand.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, I think if anybody wants to share anything, I mean, it's just like now we can go rogue, or like it's just any last thoughts or
I have
sharing.
one question actually, like
Okay.
to all of you. Um, for example, I'm asking this because I feel like all of the women here or whoever I didn't just us, right? I feel like everyone is very self-aware about like feminism and womanhood, and so when you read stories like that, where I don't know how to express that. So as you can see, like we talked about this dichotomy about young Mega being very different, even though she's still similar as older Mega. She's like tomboyish and she's like works out and she has like carom competition with guys and like remember there's a scene where she's like, oh, is it that Akshay trying to prank her because he lost her to Karen. That was also another like feminist jive because like when men lose to women at games, they are like very sour about it, and that's what she's thinking. So she has these experiences where she's like, but she's not aware, like self-aware about it. So when you read stories like that, do you think it's little too preachy or especially when you have already reached a state where you know about all of this? Or are you just enjoying the story? Like, is this Does it interrupt your reading experience, like all this political thing, or do you just like read it as a story and does it ruin your experience?
Yeah, Sujita. Yeah. Yeah.
Not really, actually. It doesn't interrupt or anything. I feel like it helps us to relate better. I feel we're like, okay, like this is what we're feeling is not it's not like an anomaly, but it's something even the author feels the same. So, like there are some things we might have shrugged off thinking, oh my god, probably part and parcel of life, but need not be that way. So that it helps to read that in stories or in art or see that everywhere. It always helps. That's my opinion.
Good to know.
Anyone else? Kriti?
Yeah, I'd like to add. So, and your stories in particular, this one was not preachy at all,
Okay.
because it mentions even you said the jab on feminism when they talk about the Karen and losing. Um, that was just a statement. Now you and I know there's a nuance to it.
Yeah.
uh, but I see if a man reads this, they will not understand that nuance, come what may. So
Right.
that dumbness you can't help. I'm sorry, I always have to say that. But there was no peachiness. In fact, it was so interesting. In fact, actually, there is a story called The Egg, which is
I love
wherein,
that story so much.
yeah. So it also reminded me of that story, because it says, essentially talks about how it's you only in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Evolving around in different
Right.
forms. um so that's what it felt like, because this person is talking, that's the world. We do have these extensive, sorry about that sound, we do have these extensive elaborate details, which were beautiful, which were absolutely beautiful. Yes, it's very funny, like, yeah. But but eventually the main character is the one person talking, and it
Yeah.
revolves around him, and it you and the loop and the time loop of it is also very frustrating, because you're like, they never get out of it. So time travel also seems frustrating in that moment. But there was no aspect of the like feminism being, apart from that one line where it's a
Yeah.
patriarchal concept, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. It's a fact. It's reality.
Yeah.
So it's written in a very very nuanced manner. It actually humanizes women so beautifully, because you're just talking about a person. There is no female aspect to it.
Right.
There is, of course, there is. It's the central theme, and it's very political. But yeah, I think I give too long answers. I should just like
Hmm.
shorten. Should work
No,
on
no,
my
that was
brevity.
that was very good.
Yeah, but I loved your story. Absolutely, the introduction was fabulous. It was
Oh,
fabulous.
thank
So
you.
like that one. In fact, that Sarna and I were talking about, there is this recording by John Hopkins and Ramdas, which is called "Sit Around the Fire."
Hmm.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you must
Sorry, can
listen.
you put that in the chat too? Like,
Sorry.
sorry, I was asking Sorna if she could put that in the chat too, so I
Yeah,
remember it. Yeah.
it's this 9-10. Everybody should listen to it. It's this 9-10 minute long. It's psychedelic therapy is what the thing calls it.
Uh-huh.
But Dhara, the whole thing, the way this person is talking to you, and the things that they're saying, and the way they sort of, and there's like mention of embers, there's mention of uh, transcending self and the rubric of time and all of those things. And then eventually the last line is, all our lives, all we'll do is sit around the fire. um, and that fire is some that's very interesting. It's not just fire, it's something else.
Oh,
So yeah, that is also what this book reminded me of. So
nice. I
multiple
listen to it.
overlaps as to, like, it's so interesting how what one book can do. So fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
fabulous
Yeah,
book.
I think it's so fascinating what one story could do also.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and if you hadn't, if like, I'm sure you went through a lot of like, oh, should I? Did you go through a lot of? I shouldn't even write this.
Not with this one.
Not with
Uh,
this.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I asked that once is because there are so many stories about the future self visiting the past self, especially in the like American literature and American movies. Like it's so overdone in a way, and that's why I was happy that I was able to give this angle, like cooking, because you never like if there is no story where a future self goes to the past self and asks the
That's
person to
fun.
learn to cook.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, the only and not with this story. The only reason I did ask just once was do like because it's because the format, the main concept itself about future visiting the past self is um, it's not that unique.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that there was no doubt there, because so many of us, I'm sure, want to write so many things, but we're like, it's not even important. And that
Yeah.
just is lost. And that's why we don't have enough female
So
writers,
the,
because we don't write.
yeah, so I did face that, but the one thing I learned is that whenever you face that dilemma, like, oh, this has already been talked of before, why should I write it? And I think you should we should think about how no one has been asked, right? Like even though this has been talked about, no one has been asked. And to make that story unique, even though it has been talked about a lot or written about before, you have to attach, give it parts of yourself, and that will make it unique.
Yeah,
Um, and no one has been you, so it's gonna be unique in a way. Uh,
100%.
the same happened with this stories. Like there was, I got one review. I That was the only negative review I've received ever, ever since I writing the book, was for this book, the Cosmic Campfire. It was by someone in the U.S., a woman who was talking about how um, I was very open about how these templates are very classic, but I just wanted to give it a unique touch, like diverse, unique literary touch. And her review was that um, there is one Indian story which only talks about food. That like she was criticizing it. That and I got her point. Like I understood. Like she was saying that she was a white person, so she was saying that why is a story about a brown woman just about food? So she didn't get the nuance, and she also didn't understood that I this book was I specifically wrote for Indian audience and immigrants who come to the U.S. because Allonsy it's all about uprooting yourself and moving to a foreign land. So that was in my head. I was writing it for that audience, and she was someone who has been here always. So she was like, um, um, "This has already been talked about. Why is someone talking about it again, and especially just about food? It's all about food." And I got her point, but it didn't like it's okay. It didn't bother me because that's not someone who I wrote the story for. And like Priti, you said that when you read it, you got the nuances, and that's the readership that I was trying to reach. So there's always gonna be someone who's gonna read your work and say that, oh, it's already been talked about. What's new? But then if you are attaching parts of yourself which are unique to you, there are people who say, oh, I relate to this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the recent story that I'm working right now for part two of Cosmic Campfire, it's about because of a clerical error of an overworked employee in the future, uh, of shipment cargo from 2100s reach 1970s India, a village. So there is this gadgets, cell phones and stuff, but there is also birth control patches, and it's 1970s village in South Gujarat. Actually, the village where I spent the first 5 years of my life, inspired from that village, and it's also feministic because they discovered this birth control patches, and there's this. It's a dark humor and this satire. So this village men make women wear patches when the astrologer says that they'd have woman child, and then they make them remove the patches when they say that when the astrologer says that they're gonna give birth to boy. So I was even with that book, I was trying not to be preachy. And for one thing, I figured out why though I figured out was the way I could not be preachy about it is to show it as humor, like it's satire and dark humor. And again, it's been talked about like gadgets. traveling from the future to the past, and to make it unique, I showed it in my own village, like, which is I don't think anyone has ever talked about that village or culture from that village before. So yeah, there's like caste struggles and stuff like that. But yeah, you'll know when I finish the story. But that's that's the trick, like to make it unique. Write what you know.
Wow. Just yeah, I just feel like applauding for every answer. It's so interesting. And yeah, can't wait to read it, Dhara. Everyone else, I'm sure, is already interested. And I mean, if this is the first story in her short story collection, so definitely you should like check the whole collection out, because there every story just gets even more interesting, because it's also sort of in different genres. But all of these really focus on relationships between species, and it has like all of these have emotions at sort of the core of them, and that's what I really stands out to me in Dhara's writing, because I always imagine science fiction to be technical, and I have to figure out all the loopholes and make sure it works out logically. And I think when I read Dhara's stories, it actually gave me like the courage to write, I feel. That you sitting here in this small town, with your influences, because once I remember my dad, so I'm into speculative design, and my dad asked me, like, I was in Madurai, in front of the temple, and there's like open gutter on one side, and the people living here, I don't know. So it sometimes feels to me that probably even right now at this time, US is probably 40 years ahead in many things. So in my head, I view different spaces is as in different times, like even at the same time, that if I'm traveling to the US right now, maybe I'm time traveling to the past or to the future. So for me, even physical travel I saw was kind of like time travel.
Yeah,
And my father asked me, like, you're here, and how does this like to matter to you, and it was kind of he was highlighting the irrelevance of what I was doing. And I think through Dara's stories, I kind of found that relevance back for me again, that it's not like I don't have to include flying chariots or temple towers in my story, but I can include the land that I come from, the soil that I see, the heat that I receive, or like I just remember like a temple festival that I attended to when my village. Um, so it sort of just gives me the courage to write about all of these things that, like Dhara was saying, just bring your unique voice to science fiction.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, and also her, all like I'm so excited for her second novel as well, Unearthing Idyll Part 2.
Yeah,
um,
that's the one where she is going to be a lot about there's this tribal area where I live, uh, indigenous population in Saputara, and that's where the part of the story takes place. So it was fun. Like I did a lot of research. I met a lot of indigenous people from that area. It's like an hour away from where I live. I interviewed them, and yeah, I'm very happy about writing about that.
that's we have a lot to like look forward to. That's like I think that's like a great way sort of to end this. And I think we should all like, I mean, if any does anyone else have anything else to say, because I think it's kind of past my bedtime. But if anyone else has any closing notes or thanks, I have a lot of thanks to say also. Anyone
Yeah,
wants to say
me
anything
too.
before that?
Yes, I yeah, can I go? Yeah, so I just wanted to tell that as a newbie to the reading community and the genre, I just loved your work. And to answer your question, I did not find it preachy at all. And I also wanted to let Swarna know for hosting this event. This event was amazing. I did not know it was going to be this informative, because to see the layers of writing, it's just very new to me. So I absolutely enjoyed the time. So I wanted to tell that, after I read the story, I was very surprised to have resonated with the story. And I started thinking about how that happened because of my experiences, of course, but also because I am a woman, and I try to understand, like, how a man, if he read the story, would he understand the weight of the story it carries and all of that. And now when you told about your audience, explaining about the critic, I understood who you were targeting this book towards. I was just curious to know, is there any concept that you are writing that is where it's not like very women centric? How do I put it in the best way possible? I just want to know if there's any concept that you're working that is equivalent to the same experience of how reading this book was to me as a woman to a
Mhm.
guy. Like, is I just wanted to know your thought, because that is where I was thinking after reading the book. Like, I knew it was very personal and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I did not go abroad. I did not have to have the conditions that you explained to see where the story comes from. Because I'm in
Yeah.
an Indian household, I started resonating with it from the get-go. So I just want to know if there are other themes you're playing with.
So you're asking if, like, the way you felt about as a woman reading this story, you want to know if there is a story that a man would feel the same,
Yes,
something like that.
yes.
I don't know. I mean, I have to ask a man, but I know that from my novel Unearthing Idyll, there is a character Arya, which a
Okay.
lot of I got a lot of reviews from men saying that they love the character uh, because he's shown as this very astute, very he's not like alpha masculine or anything at all, nothing like of that sort. But he's very nuanced, and he's also has his flaws and vulnerabilities, and he finds this emotional part of him as he grows.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, the novel Unearthing Idol, where the main character, one of the two main characters, Arya, is something I think a man would like reading. I think a lot, majority, not majority, but at least 50% of the readers of that book are men, and I got good reviews from them.
Okay.
And also there is, mm, I don't know. I think the fact I enjoyed the fact that because I'm trying to address all these nuances. So one of the biggest fan of this book is actually a guy who read this book 3 times, and he is a very, he's going through a very tough time mentally, and for him this has become therapy. So every time he feels depressed or going through a very dark period, he reads this book, and which is, I think, my most favorite compliment that I've ever received on my work. And he's a guy, so I mean, I hope that helps. And
That
he's from India, and he's from India, so it's not like, oh, he's American, but he's from India. So yeah, so I think it depends on the kind of men. If they are looking for something very masculine, they might not like it. But if they are fine with nuances, they might.
Yeah, that's lovely to know. But I brought this up because I was thinking of all the men I know. If anyone that read this story, I don't think that they would receive it like I did. That's
Yeah,
where this question
which is
came from.
something I learned after Kriti made a point about it. I didn't realize that before actually.
Yeah, thank you.
Miru, you raised your hand. Oh, people are leaving. I want to do a group picture. Okay,
Yeah.
making that one.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, so we can get like a group picture with the remaining folks.
How to make dal from my mother after reading the story. Um, yeah, like, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I always, like you said, I thought, it's patriarchal, and I was always afraid that I would just like give in to cooking sometime in the future. Like maybe people might not force me into cooking, but then I would just like give in to it, and I was always afraid. But like after reading the story, I feel like I should go like try cooking, and it'll probably
Yeah.
be therapeutic. And I'm just like fresh from a heartbreak, and I'm feeling lonely, so I think it'll help.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Miru.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do that. I tried that and it helped.
Yeah, I tell her that always.
Yeah,
But look,
if anything,
the
we'll have like
story,
good food.
yeah, the story helps more than advice from a friend. Okay, I'm gonna take a screenshot of
Okay.
the last few people remaining. I
Miss,
mean, if it's not too dark, you can turn on your camera. And I don't know why I have my AI note taker enter without my consent, but yeah, smile. I'll just take. Oh, so it's not 5. Wait a second. It's Control Shift 3. Yes, I have a screenshot, and this was really good. This one went on quite a while, and oh, Miro, we can see you. Travel.
Miss super lights.
You can see like shadows of me again.
Yeah, but this was fun, Thara.
It was
Thank you
so
so
much
much for
fun.
making
Thank
the
you so
time.
much. Yeah, I loved it. I
Yeah,
learned
and
something.
already Ramya's just asked me if she can feature you in the next month's edition of the magazine.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like got like a huge Tamil readership. So
Nice.
I don't know, your stories might be translated to Tamil someday,
Yay.
and also Gujarati. So
I would love
yeah,
that. I would love that.
yeah, that would be amazing. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Swarna.
Dhara, do
Thank
you
you
want
for
to say
doing this.
anything?
This was amazing, Suvarna. Great job.
Yes.
I will suck at this. Yeah, I will
No.
suck at this.
You were great. You were great. And everyone else was also great. Like everyone read the story. I was
Yeah.
so happy for that. Like, and all the questions
Yes.
were
Wait, I want to congratulate Swarna for writing for 2 years and
Yes,
she's
let's all
doing the great
congratulate her.
Yeah.
work. And to Dara, this has been amazing. I can't wait to read more of
Thank
your
you.
work. So, and this is my first time being with all these creatives. This is so inspiring, guys.
oh my god, it's like the streamers on my
This has been. Oh, yeah, and Dara, happy birthday!
Oh,
advance
thank
happy.
you.
Happy
Thank you, and
birthday!
happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then we will hopefully host more such meetups, maybe for her novel. Once we read it, there's a lot to discuss in that. That should be like 2 parts. You just like take one character and dissect and analyze and enjoy that character. We could do that. But yeah, this has been really, really fun for now, and let's hope to make this thing like an event where we can. I'm also looking forward to inviting more writers, and also I think this was different because we did not only have readers in the audience, we had other writers,
Yeah,
other.
yeah. I wanted to tell to everyone to connect with me so I can also follow your work if you're writing, or also contact me. Message me anytime if you have questions or need help.
Yes, so I'm so glad like everyone just found community, and
Yeah.
like dal bhat was the core thing here. Yeah, I mean I was not expecting Maheshwari to move this. I knew she was moving.
Yeah.
um
I know. I was also
that's
surprised.
sweet. That's sweet. Okay, then we will meet sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the future, present. Yes.
Circle
Bye.
back.
Um,
I
Good
was
night and have a
Good
good
night.
day to those on the
Good
other side
night.
of the video.
Bye, Chrissy.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye. Bye.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
bye.